Hello friends, welcome to Gardening with Creekside. I am Jenny here on the front porch with my beloved for our December porch chat. But we're going to do things a little bit differently today. We are, like to switch things up and move things around a little bit, keep things interesting. It is almost the middle of December, so we're going to look back on November, the things to come in the future. Obviously, it's a very windy day, so we're going to do the best we can. Excuse me, but it has been quite a busy November, beginning of December.
It has.
It has.
Yeah, with everything with the greenhouse and landscaping and finishing up retail and
Yes.
videos. And
that's right.
It's all been very busy, very good.
All busy and all good. So we are right now we're in our last week of the 2021 selling season, retail season, and we're going to be closed until about mid-February?
Mid-February, retail is closed, landscaping's going, and videos, of course, are going.
And production will be going.
So that's the reason why we shut retail down this time of year, so we have to get ready. It just kind of gives us a little bit of a break, and then we're ready to go for the growing season starting in mid-January.
Right, because I think our first baby annuals will arrive the week of January the 18th, I believe it is, and they're going to go into the new greenhouse, right?
Correct. That's the idea.
When he's by himself, he's Mr. Chatty, right? When I ask him a question, he's like,
I don't know. That's what else
correct.
to say there. It's correct. That's right.
Well, expand on that. So why are we going to go into this greenhouse versus the other greenhouse? You got to give the people want Jerry, so you got to give them some Jerry. You can't go, yes.
Yes.
Drawing it out of him, people.
Yeah.
Okay, so why are we going into this greenhouse versus those production greenhouses up there?
Well, I think what we had decided on, which was not 100% in concrete, it just depends on how things go.
Sorry.
That's right. Was that most of the stuff that's coming in on the 18th? It may not be all of it, but most of it will be things that we will sell early on towards the beginning of March, so that way it's ready. We don't have to move it twice.
Right.
But I think there will be some movement. I mean, but
there's always movement.
Yeah.
There's always movement.
And then we'll do a lot of baskets early on. Those are always done, so they'll be going in all of them because we have to have something after me.
It's a little spider coming down off your hat.
Yeah. So it's coming from up there. So yes, so we'll put baskets in all of them early on because that will produce lots of hanging baskets.
We do hundreds of hanging baskets.
So they'll go in all of them.
Yep. So that's what's going on over there. Concrete greenhouses, that part of it is done. Super excited. And of course, we'll have videos just because the nursery is closing as far as like for retail sales. Videos will keep on going because Jerry and I were talking, just about video ideas and things like that. And my gosh, it seems like we have more content available coming up here in the next 8 weeks, and sometimes maybe we do in the middle of the growing season, June, July, or August, or whatever. So we've got tons of content, so don't think that videos are going anywhere. They're not. But what we're going to do, too, is because we've got Christmas coming up, some fun things. So we're just, for our family, we obviously are a family business, and the kids are involved in all aspects. So that's another reason why we close is just to give us some time where the nursery's not open and to be relaxed and be intentional with family time.
And I think folks maybe they've gotten, busy with things coming up. I mean, just like this last weekend, we did nothing. I mean, there was very little stuff going on. With people always ask us out here when we get ready, when are you going to close? And it really depends sometimes for us. I mean, if it starts to really slow down and we just don't see the need, we'll just close. But we're going to go ahead and do it Friday. We thought it was going to be Thursday, Friday, Saturday, but I've decided to just concentrate on landscaping on that Thursday, and then we're going to do Friday and Saturday, and we're doing some specials and that kind of thing just to see. It just helps us a little bit with some inventory, but other than that,
No, yeah.
We're ready to go into the next week for vacation, and
yeah, we're going to take a little family trip before Christmas and just a little getaway for us. And then Jerry and I are going to go away together in January to celebrate our, we're just going to celebrate us. Let's just say that, because our 20th anniversary was in 2020 in the middle of COVID. Yeah. That we were going to do a big trip for us, a big trip. And then of course that got, because of COVID. And so it got delayed, and anyway, so we're going to take a little time, a couple of nights, and we're going to go on a trip for just the two of us and celebrate just the two of us. So that'll be fun. But what we're going to do, we're still going to answer viewer questions on the porch chat, but we are not going to do it here. We're going to go to the different locations where we shot those videos and answer the questions there, so that way if there's some sort of something that we need to show you or just to refresh your memory, we are going to do that. So just stay tuned, sit tight, and we are getting ready to answer your questions. One of the first videos that we are going to cover today was the video called A Bit of Fall Garden Chores, where I was both in the garden boxes and then here at the shade bed cleaning up and tidying up some. So if you look back on that video, you can already see that the perennials that I left because they weren't quite zapped have been officially zapped, and they are still here. So that is on the project list to do. So questions with this. Chris, our fan, says, this was perfect timing for me. I was out in my front garden this evening removing leaves from around my perennial and removing annuals. Was wondering if I should compost and mulch those beds, but want to wait until leaves have finished falling. Do you think that'll be okay? Absolutely. So if you, your timing for composting and adding your mulch or your leaf litter is really just going to depend on your situation. So here you can tell that we still have a lot of leaves that are falling, but I just say the best time to do it is when you have the time to do it, and if you're able to get out there and do it, whether it's early in the season, mid-season, or late season, it's better than not doing it at all. So yeah, just get out there, whatever time works best for you. Is fantastic. Obviously, if you do it before the majority of your leaves fall, then you might have to come back and blow. But like even right now, if we had blown this and gotten all the leaves out, well, now we've got our own windstorm going and all the leaves come back. So that's just kind of a battle that we fight, you know, trying to keep the beds looking neat and tidy. Next question came from Nicole. She says, should you also put in-ground beds to sleep for the winter by covering them with leaf mulch and land and sea? Or will it make clay soil, we're in Georgia, hold even more water? Now, I know it sounds like adding compost and leaf litter will make your clay soil hold more water. It actually doesn't. So if you are doing a whole entire bed, whether you're top dressing that with that land and sea, or you're creating a new bed and you're working it into that soil, it just adds a bit of aeration to that soil and helps the water not hold on as much in that flower bed. So no, you are perfectly fine. Even us with clay soil, it is great to go ahead and add that land and sea and that leaf litter, because it all breaks down into that wonderful compost, and it feeds your plants and it feeds your soil, and it's great. Jerry, you got anything to add on to that one?
No, I think it's just great that it's, you know, adds, and we're worried about that 3 to 4 inches of soil, and that's adding that good topsoil back on top of that clay.
Right, because like Jerry says, the vast majority of our plants, especially like our perennials and our shrubs, they don't have massive, long, deep tap roots. Most of their roots are more horizontal, right? So they're going out. So he is saying those top, you know, 3, 4 to 6 inches of your bed, that's the most important, because that's where the vast majority of your roots are. So we want to make that as nutritious as possible.
Especially for a perennial bed.
Especially for perennial beds, absolutely. All right, ILGPAG says, hello from Pennsylvania. I love your sweet mama's nickname, Mimi. Question, do you spread mulch over or around your ground cover plants? Anticipated, thanks for your answer. So that's a great question. So do we put the mulch and or the compost, any of those amendments directly on top of the crown or around. So I will say it depends on what the plant is. So for a hydrangea, I don't want to put things on top of the crown. I just go up to the edge. Where I have hostas or ferns that have completely disappeared, then I can go ahead and cover them on top. Now, if you know where they are, obviously you don't want to be putting tons of compost on top of them, but mulch is fine to put on top of that, just a nice light layer, so that way you don't have kind of gaping holes. Those plants will be fine and will emerge. Now, if you put, again, 6 or 8 inches of compost and then 4 inches of mulch, that could be an issue. So just be aware of where your crowns are. You can lightly cover them with a little bit of compost. Mulch is fine. So hopefully that answers your question. Barbara says, in the spring, do you remove the leaf litter or do you work it into the soil? Last year in my garden boxes, I left it. In fact, I didn't even work it into the soil. I spread it back where I was planting my seeds or my vegetable transplants, put those in the ground, and then brought the leaf litter back on top of it. So it acted as a mulch in those beds. And man, I did not have near the amount of weeds that I have had in the past. It just worked beautifully. So I don't really kind of do either. I just kind of leave it alone as a top dressing, and it just kind of breaks down. But if anything, I certainly wouldn't remove it completely. If you want to work it in, you can. But again, I just left it, pulled it back, and then pushed it back again. Nicole says, hi guys. You said you were waiting for some of your perennials to go to sleep before moving them. Is this preferred to do for perennial plants? It's less shock on the plants if you wait for them to kind of go to sleep or go dormant, for the simple reason of, if you can see, I think you can see that I have hostas here that all of their foliage has been killed back by the cold weather. So if I move these now, the plant only has to worry about sustaining its root system and not a bunch of top beautiful green foliage. So it's less work on the plant to move them when the top foliage is dormant, died back, asleep for the winter. But you do have to be careful, of course, where you are. I mean, we're in North Carolina Zone 7B. I could still have plenty of time. If I wanted to move things, I could dig them up and move them. And our climate is so temperate that they would be fine. Now, if I were in upstate Michigan, obviously this is not the exact time of year that I want to do that. I would have wanted to do that well before my last frost date, so that the plants can get adjusted, the roots can have time to get established back into the soil, into their new environment. So the advice that I give is going to be dependent on where you are. So if you're in the south, of course, yeah, November, December, go ahead and move them. You've got plenty of time. If you're in a lot colder climates, then you're going to want to look at your last frost date and do that well before that last frost date, so that those roots get established. Let's move on to the next video. Next video was when we planted this fantastic hedge of phantom hydrangeas. I know it's not fantastic right now because they're all sticks, but just use your imagination and see what it's going to look like in 6 or 7 months. It's going to be great. So our first question comes from Garden Up Landscape. Says, I'm looking forward to seeing how this turns out. It sounds beautiful. One question, did you break up the root balls at all? It was hard to tell, but it looked like they were taken out of the pots and put straight into the hole.
That's right.
That is correct. They were taken straight out of the container and put into the hole directly. We rarely break up our root balls on our plants. We only do that really if they are, do you see the conditions that I have to work in? Such a hostile work environment. We really only break up our root systems if it's like the plant is majorly pot bound, root bound. It has to be really bad, because I think a lot of times people, y'all know I love and adore my mama, but sometimes she can get a little aggressive on a root ball, and I'm like, Mama, stop, you're going to do more damage than you are doing good.
Yeah, it's really most unnecessary in annuals and perennials. You see a lot of times in trees and shrubs, because they have been in the pot much longer.
And the only one that I would say about would be if it was either a perennial or an annual grass. It's like a really aggressive grass that's been left in the pot, because we have seen those where they just they'll circle up. Yeah. But for the vast majority of the time, we do not plant plants that have major pot-bound issues. So we don't break them up. So yes, no, we did not break up the root ball system on that. Hopefully that wasn't too squirrely to get you the answer. Kayla says, look at that, so beautiful. I like all the plants you have going. Question, did you not mix in the black gold in that area because it's not going to be irrigated and you want the clay soil to hold some water for the plants? I'm about to enlarge a flower bed in my yard, zone 7A, so I'm learning how to grow beautiful plants and shrubs as you do. Now my bed is actually on drip irrigation, so I would add the black gold in that case or skip it.
Oh yeah.
So what we did, Jerry and I were talking about this before we started filming, and if you remember, we did not amend the soil at all as far as like the whole bed, which we've done in other videos. We didn't do it in this video, in this planting, but we did come back through and give every hydrangea a bag of Land and Sea compost.
And then really a bag is really nice for a 3-gallon plant.
Sure. And you were saying too, even though this is red clay soil, it has never been amended in the 18 years that we've been here. Right. But as far as red clay goes, it was actually really nice red clay. It wasn't super compacted and heavy and thick.
We're not concerned about the adding pine bark fines or lots of drainage because we're really on a nice slope, so the water's always draining. You know, so the clay is going to act as a holder of water, so I'm not having to add compost or peat or something like that to hold water. So
right,
you know, it's the practical method of, you know, dig a hole, buy a ton fertilizer, and put the plant in the hole and put the native soil back.
Right, and the reason that we did use, though, a bag of Land and Sea compost was more of like a nutritional thing, because it's not going to hurt, and of course in the fall is not the time to give these hydrangeas food for foliage growth. Like you wouldn't want to do plant tone or rose tone this time of year. So that Land and Sea is great slow release food for the root system.
And just like we said in the perennial bed, it's the same for your shrub beds. They're working off the first 4 inches.
Yep. So hopefully that helps. And there's not an absolute, right? In gardening, there are very few instances of an absolute. You must do this and you must do that. If we had had a huge abundance of black gold on hand, maybe we would have used the black gold. We had more Land and Sea available to us, so that's what we used. So use what you have and use what you've learned and go for it. And remember, these plants are a lot stronger and healthier than we give them credit for. Kind of leads into this one. Deb asked, would you consider doing a video on those trees? I had a few Cryptomeria Yoshinos planted last year and would love to learn how you care for those trees over the years. It's always great to see planting videos, but it's also nice to learn about mature plants and how you have cared for them. So again, as a recap, we planted these Cryptomerias before the house was built, so well into 18, possibly even 19 years ago now.
Right. They were
Jerry remembers this more than I do.
Because they were very straggly 3-gallon plants. They were not very full. We got a tip from your uncle's farm, and they said the best thing to do was to cut the top out of them, and then they started to bush out.
They bushed out.
They liked just the basic 17 fertilizer, so we hit them up with that several different times. I can't tell you in the beginning. After that, they were on their own.
And Deb, literally, we have not touched these trees in let's say they've been in the ground for 19 years. Yeah. We've not touched them for at least 15. At least. And so they're not on any kind of irrigation. We have, other than like at the beginning, Jerry said that 17, we don't compost them, we don't fertilize them.
We were doing that because the plant was just so thin, and we were trying to bulk it up.
They were a little skinny. They were
I would say
they were like little Charlie Brown Christmas trees, and so we were trying to bulk them up.
And I would say if you get a Cryptomeria that looks really great from your nursery, you're just going to buy a ton of fertilizer in the bottom of the hole and
there you go.
Put it in.
Yeah. All right. Linda T. Now there was a lot of not necessarily questions, but comments along this line. Said great learning video, but the drone shots are amazing. was that made close to sunrise or sunset? And I will have to say, and it's interesting reading everybody's comments and just all across social media, that this fall was a spectacular season, kind of, I think, across the nation for fall color, and it certainly was here.
It was. And
we were so glad that we had the drone in order to get some of those great shots, because, oh, gorgeous. But to answer your question, that was a sunset. Sunrise comes right here, and which we rarely get to see because we're kind of, I guess, down in a little bit of a hole, so we don't get a really good sunrise. But that shot at the end of the video was a sunset, and man, Jerry nailed it on that one. It was beautiful. All right, so that is the end for the Phantom video. Now we are going to move over, I believe, to the Oaklands. So let's go talk about some Oakland hollies. Okay, so in this video, Jerry and I planted 4 of the Oakland hollies here to create a little bit of a privacy screen so that you won't see the cars as much, breaks it up a little bit. I will say that after we planted this, Jerry and I were talking and we said, you know, it's gonna take a while for these hollies to fill in. So I think what we're gonna do this summer is plant some nice big grasses between them. Probably will just be annual grasses, wouldn't you think?
I think so.
I think so. Like vertigo grass would be an amazing one because it's a fast grower, it's an annual, to get big, deep purple against the green. So anyway, first question was from an Irish girl. So pretty, your visions are coming to life. Definitely satisfying to limb up trees. Did Jerry ask Santa for a wood chipper for Christmas?
Wood chipper? Yeah, I've always thought about having those wood chippers, but I'm just going to stay away from those. I'm not interested.
Yeah, they would be a great thing to use, and the wind is really picking up, but it would be a great thing to use. I will say that there was a couple of years ago an accident. You remember locally?
Yeah.
Like this was a professional crew, and the man got sucked into the whole thing, and I mean, he was killed, and it was just awful. And so that's I'm not shy around equipment, but that one scares me. Mila says, happy Thanksgiving. What kind or brand of edger is this? Did a really nice edge. My apologies if I missed it in the video. So who makes that edger?
Easy Trench. Easy
Trench. And we had to, Jerry had to search for that thing because
the actual manufacturer, which is close by in the neighboring state of South Carolina, they were so backed up from trying to fulfill rental company orders, so they didn't have any to sell to individuals at the time. It was going to take
like months, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's going to take months. It's just the whole backlog of getting small engines and that kind of thing. But I found a company, it was another larger equipment company in Ohio that had them in stock, and we got it right down right away because we wanted to be able to use it.
Yep.
Quick.
So I'll link that in the video description, like their website, so you can go look at it.
Yep.
Jay Crane says, thank you for this video. Why do you need so much mulch? Aesthetic value? So yeah, when we put down mulch, especially in a brand new bed that has never had any kind of mulch or amendments to it before, my motto is the thicker the better, because we do have this red clay soil. These are not on irrigation.
Yep.
The mulch retains moisture, it keeps the weeds out. As it decomposes, it turns into compost. So this is not an area that I want to go skimpy on. Again, it is on a slope. So if we were to,
it's the standard 3 inches.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know that it's over.
I don't think we went overboard with it at all, especially for a brand new bed.
I think sometimes in a video, it may look like when it's coming in, it's like it's a ton of mulch. Each one of those scoops is about a half yard, but it's pretty big space. I mean, it's bigger than the camera really shows. I think.
So standard three inches, maybe 4 inches in some places, and plus when you first put it down, it's really fluffy.
Oh yeah.
So it seems, and it's definitely compacted more since then.
I think most people, they'll be kind of skimpy on the mulch.
Right, and I don't like being skimpy on mulch. I don't. Even when we do landscape jobs, I'm like, I don't want to see any thin spots. I want it nice and thick because in the long run, it's going to make you happier, the plants are going to be happier, and your soil is going to be a lot happier because all that turns into good compost. Mildred asks, Jenny, did I miss you watering them in after planting them? We don't show every single step as far as like watering in all of the videos. Yes, plants need water. If you don't water your plants at all, then yeah, they're gonna die. So no, you did not miss it. I did not show me watering them in. They do get watered. The garden shed is just right there with a hose on it. When we do plant new shrubs and really kind of any kind of plant, we like to make sure that first the root ball is nice and damp and moist before we ever put it into the ground.
And that particular morning, it was like 28 degrees.
Cold.
So the root balls were full of water.
Yeah,
they
were
cold.
Heavy.
It wasn't even watering at that time wouldn't be necessary. You might see us water if it's the dead of summer and we're planting, and we really want to make sure that there's water in the hole.
So if you remember, like straight in front of me is the patio underneath the redbud tree, and that's when this, I mean, it was the dead of summer, and Mama and I were planting that area kind of near the rose arbor with all the perennials. And I showed you that trick of you dig your hole, then you get your hose, you fill the hole up completely with water, and then put the plant in. That's the dead of summer. We're now in end of November into December. So it just really depends on the time of year and the situation. Again, there's no absolute rules that you have to do it this way every single time that you plant. So that's why we did not.
Based on conditions.
Based on conditions, where you are, environmental. It was 26 degrees that morning as opposed to, 126 degrees that day. Yep. All right, and then the last video we're going to talk about was probably, I dare say, our most popular for this month, spending a day with Jerry.
Oh my word.
Stay tuned. Okay, so here we are for the Jerry's big solo day, doing the video while Jenny was in jury duty, but
yes.
Yeah, people loved having you on the video.
Yeah, big surprise maybe.
Big surprise for you or big surprise for them?
I guess for them, or I just not
used to you
much. It's something new.
Yes, it is something new, but people were very, very positive and very supportive with you flying solo without me.
So.
I do. This is not a question. I just
oh boy.
I find this fun. So Liz said, I actually read this to you the other day. Liz said it was a lot of fun spending a day with Jerry. Jerry is so soft-spoken, and I'm sure he never gets upset.
Yeah, I know.
He never gets fired up.
Yeah.
Just like me, I never get fired up.
I do get fired up there from time to time.
But he can definitely put on his teacher's voice, and he does a great job. And I do think people have some misconceptions that they think that you get nervous or that you don't like being in front of the camera.
Yeah.
It does, but you're not that way.
No.
I mean, it doesn't bother you to be in front of the camera.
No.
Because if you didn't want to be on the front of the camera, then you wouldn't be here right now.
Right.
Right. Yes. Okay. So, moving on to the actual questions of the day. Loda said, would it be possible to, this is when you're up on the shrub lot, would it be possible to heal the shrubs in with mulch to keep them from freezing?
Yeah, I didn't know that I really understood that question and where she was coming from.
Well, and I think I understand though. Okay, so.
Because if we're here, we're planting.
Right. But when you were up on the shrub lot and you were talking about all the different shrubs being out there, so I think I understand what you're asking if we don't get blown away
and
here.
The stake system's working really well because we have wind coming in from this side. It's blowing the tree really well.
And she's still upright.
It's still good. So you can see that our work really paid off.
Okay, sorry, squirrel. So the shrubs that we have, the vast majority of the shrubs that we have in containers for sale are extremely cold hardy. Like our hydrangeas are very cold hardy. We do have some shrubs, however, that are more on the warmer side, maybe like camellias, tea olives, those things. So in the cold part of the winter, how do we care for those to ensure that their root system?
Two different ways of doing it for us would be just to take them all and put them all together. We just take them all and push all the pots, huddle them up, too, just move them into the greenhouse or a cold frame. That's what a lot of.
And the frost protection blanket too.
Yeah, frost protection. Yeah, so the only thing out there would be Loropetalum.
Right.
And the viburnum. Yeah.
Camellias, because the vast majority of our camellias, like we don't grow camellias, we bring the camellias in, that kind of thing. But as a homeowner on a smaller scale, because my mama has had plants that, yes, if she's in limbo between moving plants, or if she wants to overwinter plants that maybe are a little tender, she has a nice big compost pile, so she will leave them in their containers and heel them in, into the soil. And so what we mean by healing in is basically you're digging a hole into that area, you're planting the container and everything in there to provide an insulation, and then come springtime you can pull the plant out with the container out of that. I know that Mama has done that with certain, especially with perennials, she needs to dig it up and move it, but she's not ready to plant it somewhere else, so she'll heal it in.
Just think if it's a container plant like that was in the video, if we're here and our soil is not frozen, we're putting it in the ground, because it's much better for it to be in the ground than it is above the ground.
Right. Yeah. Maybe they're moving and they don't have anywhere to put it.
I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
That's true.
I mean there are certain situations. You're right. Yeah. It's not going to hurt the plant. It may not just be necessary, is the bottom line. All right, Joe says, what about the types of camellias, both types of camellias? They are zone 7, I'm zone 7B like you, Mississippi. Is it too late to plant those? So I'm thinking you mean like Sasanquas versus Japonicas, maybe, both
not
types?
Too late.
No, not too late at all. Get those babies in the ground. You've got it. You got plenty of time. Go for it, sister. All right. Next, Mary says, good job, Jerry.
Thank you.
This video reminded me, I plan to move 3 knockout roses. Can I cut them back in order to move? Hope you see this and answer. She is zone 8 coastal plains. So I will say, from the research that I have been doing,
what kind of rose was it?
Knockouts.
Knockouts.
So first of all, they have a fantastic website, so I would say go to their website and look, because they talk about how to prune, how to transplant, and all that. So go check out their website, see what they say. I know that I was researching this because I need to move some of my David Austin English roses around in the patio, that they're just going to get new homes. They're going to play musical chairs. And so I was looking to see, do I need to move them now or do I need to wait? And for David Austin's, with those shrub type roses, they said not to do it now, that you want to prune them back and move them in late winter going into spring, right before they go into that active period of growth. Mm-hmm. I would imagine that knockouts would be very similar.
Yeah, and I would say that way with anything that we get to this point in the year, if you want to move it, that's what I would do.
Yeah.
That's the best
situation.
Yeah.
Right. All right, Deborah says, good video, Jerry. It was nice to see what your day was like. Glad you got the tree staked. Was wondering, how long now will you leave it staked?
Oh, that's a good question. It'll probably, we'll check it this time next year. That's what we'll do.
Somebody else had asked a question that was in that very similar, in as far as like how long do you leave it staked and how long do you know. Basically, once we can come in here and kind of pull and tug on it and it doesn't wibble wobble, then we know that the roots are established and we can unstake it.
Yeah.
Basically, right? Yeah. So you're only leaving the stakes on until that root system gets really strong and it can handle the wind like what we're having right now. Because if this wasn't staked and we were to unstake it, I mean, it would be laying on the ground.
And there was one thing I failed. This is not a question, but this is a add to that video that I failed to mention to everyone, was that we had this problem with this tree because I had incorrectly planted it. So I actually ripped it up out of the ground and lost a lot of its roots. It was terrible. But I took half quarter bag of pine tone, threw it in the bottom of the hole, then replanted it back, and I really think that's why it's still alive.
Yeah.
I mean, and I did that. It was getting ready to get hot in the summer. I'm really surprised that it's here. So that may be a testimony to biotin fertilizer.
It's a miracle that this tree really has survived.
I don't know.
Because, I mean, we've been dealing with this thing for a year being flip-floppy, and that is not normal. But
so
anyway, she's still here, and she's doing great, and it's so nice to look out the window and see her nice and straight and very happy, so that's a good thing. Yep. All right, my friends, so that is all the questions and answers that we have time for today. Remember, as we do videos, if you have questions, stick them in those comments. If I don't answer them right away, then maybe we'll circle back around and do these monthly kind of Q&As with it. But as always, thank you so much for gardening with Creekside. Y'all have a great day, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye, friends.
Bye.